All right, hey guys. Uh, so to get started, just a bit about me. I'm TC Davis. I look like that, usually a little less blurry. Uh, Twitter, not super active, but if you have any questions, I love answering them. Just love talking to people. Uh, and I work on this thing. Uh, Snack, hopefully you've come across it at some point, but it's kind of like a JS Fiddle or code sandbox for React Native. So you can write your code, you can play around with stuff, run in a little emulator there, connect your phone. So it's cool for playing around with stuff, cool for sharing it with other people, repro cases, good stuff. And through working on that, I get to see a lot of new people coming into the ecosystem, and just kind of kicking the tires on it, and just think a lot about what is it that gets them over that hurdle, that gets them committing to the ecosystem and actually building on it, and that's sort of what I want to talk about today. So how does React Native go from being this kind of insurgency we're working on right now to like the standard way that people are building their mobile applications? Hopefully, since you're here, you're already sold on a lot of the benefits we have. But if not, I bet you will be by the end of tomorrow. And so I want to talk about how like every person in this room, even if you're just starting, can contribute to making this happen. But first, just how do platforms succeed generally? Not React Native specifically, but just like how does something go from being this new, really cool technology to the thing that everybody uses? And I think we usually sort of think about like, well, people are just picking the best technology. It's whatever solves the use cases they have better than anything else. And that's sort of true. But like, what does best actually mean? It's not just about performance. I think about these things. Like, it doesn't matter what it does if they don't know how to get there. It doesn't matter what it does if like you're the only person who can actually use the thing. And it doesn't matter what it does if you can't get your team to buy into it. So like, just as an example, I want to talk about this thing. Hugely successful, and like a lot of really cool technologies have been built on top of it. And I think it's a really cool example because when you think about like languages or platforms that have succeeded, something like JavaScript, you basically like had to use JavaScript if you wanted to do something cool on the web. But Java didn't have that. Like, there's not any new superpowers that you couldn't like already do in C. But it still won. It still got all these things to buy into it. So like, how'd they get there? I think they had some really good ideas. Write once, run anywhere, great stuff. Memory management was super annoying at best, and really error prone and buggy. In reality. And at the time, it seemed like object-oriented everywhere was a good idea too. But these other pillars like really mattered too. So Shift was like sort of amazing library support. Just out of the box, you could do a lot of stuff with it pretty easily. And Sun invested a lot of energy in like selling those benefits to people and getting buy-in. And they managed to get to a point where you had companies using it because they already knew how to do it, and it was like really easy to hire for. And schools were teaching it because it was a great way to like get their students jobs when they graduated. And that feedback loop is, I think, a big part of why it continues to be so successful. Enough about Java. So how does this work for React Native? I think we've got some really good ideas. Write once, run anywhere, still cool. And the component model is just, it's a nicer way to build applications. And we have like a lot of pretty big annoyances with like just the status quo way of doing things. Like you have two like entirely separate apps you have to keep at the same place all the time. And you know, you ship some bug, and you got to wait like a week to like get it fixed. And we have ways around these, and I think that's very exciting. Library support, we're getting there, but you know, we're still young. There's still a lot of things that we need to figure out, and I think we have a lot of really smart people working on those problems. Marketing-wise, I think, at least within the JavaScript community, we're doing a really good job getting awareness. Like, people know that this thing exists. Where I'm not sure we're like at the level we need to be is like, is it actually production ready? They know it's there, but maybe they're a little afraid of like, okay, I'm actually going to commit to this thing. But as we make progress, and as you guys tell everybody about how awesome it is, we will get there. So, good marketing. I'm going to spend a while talking about this, but like basically, I think when somebody comes into the ecosystem, they go through like a bunch of different steps, and as they do, like as they advance through each of those steps, they're more sold on the ecosystem, and they will talk to other people, which will get them more sold on the ecosystem, and that feedback loop is, I think, a big part of what actually drives platform success. So awareness, like these people are not, like they're not super bought into or invested in deeply understanding what the benefits of the technology are. They're at a meetup, they're like reading some blog post, and they take in what they hear, and that will like sort of inform when maybe down the line they have some problem, like, oh, maybe I should check this thing out. But they're not going to like put a bunch of energy in yet into deeply assessing what the technology is. So the things they say and the things that you say when you run into them anywhere or like put something out on social media or whatever helps shape how they think about it and how they talk to other people about it. So when you are out there, like if you are sold on this technology, help advocate for it. Talk to your friends, post things on social media, go to events, and tell people about like what it does, what you're using it for, and how it could help them. If we do a good job there, somebody's actually going to come in and play around with the thing. And they're a little more bought in at this point, and they're going to put a little energy into understanding what it does. And you know, for me, this is like it's like a Saturday morning activity. I've got something on the television, and I'm just going to like I'll read a couple things. Maybe I'll fire up a terminal and like play around with something small just to get a feel for how it works, what it does. And this is like a really critical time for us. We've gotten somebody excited enough about what it is, but if they don't get past like that afternoon when they're like not super bought in, they might not come away with a good impression of what it is that we can do. I think like probably the number one thing that you can do to help with this is like hackathons. I think they're a really great opportunity for allowing someone to like play around with the tech, and you can help guide them through it and like get past those like small hurdles they might not get over otherwise. And it's just like it's the best way to do a hackathon. So this is just like a small example of what somebody new to the ecosystem might do. And last I checked, this will crash on Android. Might be fixed already. But like, see if you can tell what the issue is. Is that guy? So this looks super reasonable, you know. got that thing, I set it to nothing, don't render anything. But I think what actually happens is it, tries to render nothing. And so like the person who did this, like I think posted something on Stack Overflow that I happened to see and happened to like help get them past that point. But if you don't do that, if they don't have that interaction, I think what they come away from this experience with is like, there's just like a lot of rough edges and it's not, I don't think it's ready yet. So like being available and responding to those kind of questions. It doesn't take long to just like play around with it and, oh yeah, if you change that. But like, stuff like this, somebody who's working in the ecosystem, I don't think would ever write this code. You write no, because that's what you do. And that's why issues like this end up appearing. But if we can, help get people past that hurdle, they're much more likely to stick around. This is my view on what usage of React Native looks like by platform. So we've got about half Mac, maybe 10% Linux, and then the rest Windows. And then Core has started like tagging issues as platform specific. So this is my list of all open issues, like not open now, but ever. So, I think there's only like, there's 2 Mac issues. They're still open because they're like some small, very specific thing. I think the Windows stuff is like maybe half open, half closed. Nobody ever closes a Linux issue, but I think that's probably part of the fun. But if you develop on a Windows machine, please do this. Like, I think you'll see a lot of Macs up here, and I think that's why we see this effect. Like, that's the tech we're using. That's the tech that gets tested really, really well. So, when there's a new RC out, or like somebody's throwing out a new tool, just take it for a spin. See what happens, and put a little energy into writing like a good, clean report. So it's like easy to understand what's going wrong and fix it before that gets shipped out. So if we got past that point, we're now at the moment of truth. I have a project, it's ready to go, and I'm figuring out how to actually build this thing. And I don't know everything about the ecosystem yet unless I've gone through this process before. And depending on where I'm coming from, there's just a lot to figure out. I think, if you are coming from a React for Web background, you've already gotten past a lot of these things. You already understand them, and it's just the React Native specificities that you have to grapple with. But if you're coming in fresh, like it's a lot to understand. I think this problem is like, it is pretty gnarly. The best solution I have is to just have everybody share the stuff they're working on and just allow someone new coming into the ecosystem to see how professional people who know how the tech works and know how to like make it do what they want in a performant way, and to play around with that themselves is the best way to get past these issues. I think there's a lot of objections to that kind of approach. This is one. So I think a lot of times we think, oh, I'm working on this like cool new thing, and it's very exciting, and it is. But like a lot of that stuff is just like, you're wiring together APIs in a way that like is translatable across projects. And like, if a new person has to like figure out how to like get some interaction working, that's a lot harder than just being able to like look at 10 different people who like did more or less the same thing. And like, yeah, you're copying and pasting code, but like it's a good way to learn. The next one is, I don't have time to deal with this, which, very fair. It's a lot of work to support an open source project, but like, if you're just making an example, you don't have to support the thing. You made it. Here, look at it. If you don't like it, fine. And the last one is, I didn't write very good code. Why is this useful to anyone? It's all awful. And I think somebody who knows what they're doing, like, it is a lot better than you think it is. All of these like conventions that you just sort of like learn and know are embedded in what you type. And being able to see them and like being able to see a functional example is super valuable. All right, so they picked React Native. Now they actually have to build the app they intend to build. So we still got this problem. But we get to add this on, because this is JavaScript. And we're real good at solving problems. You know, I think it's pretty easy to get overwhelmed with the choices that are in front of people. And you know, the people who are like trying to solve like deep, hard problems and have invested all this time in building all of these solutions care a lot. And the people who use them care a lot. But in order for the ecosystem to grow, I think as much as we can sort of like eliminate having to confront these choices, the better. I think it would be like really, really cool if we could come together and be like, okay, this is the easiest thing to use that is production ready. And just like, that's one question. And let's come together on what the best things that we have come up with so far to deal with those are. And then for the rest of it, like, just have like honest conversations about, okay, what's good about this one? What's bad about this one? So that when somebody's working on an app, they can get it most of the way with this like kind of like relatively easy to work with, straightforward thing. And then as they see the actual problems in the app, they can then go into like, okay, what's actually the best way to deal with this particular problem? There's a lot more stuff to care about at this point, but fortunately, you picked React Native, so you've got a lot of time on your hands. Sweat the small stuff. Really take the time to polish your experience, because how well it performs will very much informs people's understanding of what the technology is capable of. So every incremental bit of like small little improvement you can get in there does really matter. And write clean code. You know, document it, test it, refactor it, because eventually somebody else is going to take it over. And that person has to be just as happy with the technology choice you made as you are. Cool. So that's marketing. Onto the library side of things. Now you actually have to deal with this problem. But it's like, it is super rewarding to be able to work on this stuff and put something out there that solves people's problems in a novel way. You know, I think Airbnb has put a lot of great stuff out there, and I'm sure that like people would appreciate if anyone could step up and like help make sure those things continue to be as important a part of the ecosystem as they have been. You can go off into the wilderness for a while and come back with something like Reanimated. And like, you know, if this isn't for you, you can still support this effort. You know, even just like expressing gratitude to the people who work on this stuff, like makes them want to work on it more. filing good bug reports, like helping them triage issues. And if somebody is like reporting a problem but hasn't given a repro case, like help ask for one, help drive somebody towards something that will be easy to fix. Documentation is also another great way to contribute to this effort. But if you do want to do it yourself, I think Brent just has a keyboard shortcut that will just drop this whole thing in there. It's part of how he is so prolific, but you know, it's so much easier to deal with something if you could just like fire it up. Oh, look, it's broken. I see why. Go and fix it, rather than having to like, I don't know, parse somebody's code, or even just like cloning the repo, installing the dependencies, all this stuff. It takes time. And you know, why not put that burden on the person who has the problem and like should hopefully like be able to understand it better and more quickly than you can. And then you can focus your energy on helping improve the capabilities of the library. So that's most of what I got. I'm here for today and tomorrow, and like I really care about this stuff. So hopefully you can grab me at some point if you have any thoughts on this, anything you think we can do better, we should be doing better, and yeah, like get out there, help share the word, and help get people excited about this like really cool technology that we all get to work on. Thanks a lot.